Hone Your Message. Thank you for joining us today. Oh, we got a nice group here today. How many of you deal with conflict resolution outside your roles as mediators? Every hand in the room goes up, right? Why? Because we're human. And with being human comes conflict, right? So we're here today to talk about how to resolve conflict, but also how to hone your personal message. So, hone your message. I was probably 10 or 11 years old. It was evening. We were dressed up. So we were probably going to a school concert or something like that. And I was seated in the back seat of the car behind my mother on the passenger side. My brother behind my dad on the driver's side. And in that red Chrysler Cordoba, I leaned my head up between the two front seats, looked back and forth between my parents and asked, "Am I adopted?" How many of us have felt we couldn't have been born into this family? Anybody besides me? Quite a few of us.
I was adopted.
And you were adopted.
And I was really grateful.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I wasn't adopted. I mean, I bore a very strong, I still do, physical resemblance to my family, to my parents, to my brother, right? I mean, there's no question we're biologically related. So what do you suppose it was that made me ask that question that night? And still remember the experience so vividly so many years later. I mean, and the reaction of my parents. My mother, her head just jerked around and she gasped, "Of course you're not adopted!" I mean, she was clearly horrified. Now, my dad, on the other hand, I saw his shoulders going up and down, silently but violently. And I realized he was laughing his fool head off. He thought it was hilarious. Now, my mother, she's not laughing, not one bit. But with the clear physical resemblance, what was going on that I asked that question that night? What do you think? Any ideas?
About you feel like you belong?
Yeah. Perhaps that I couldn't speak my inner truth. How many of us have been in a situation where we felt we couldn't say something to people that we were close to because we were afraid of being judged? Again, almost all of us. Well, how sucky is that? I mean, wouldn't you think that the people closest to us, those that love us the most, would be the most accepting? You know, wouldn't that be, it seems more logical, or at the very least more hopeful, right?
It'd be ideal.
It would be ideal, but it doesn't always happen that way, does it? And why not? Why do you suppose it doesn't happen that way? Any ideas? Well, I'm going to say it's because elders in our families, in our organizations, like sometimes schools and religions, are not necessarily taught to voice their inner truth either, are they? And so the cycle continues. Now, you've probably heard the surveys that fear of speaking, public speaking, is the top fear of many, many people, right? Do you know there's even a name for it?
Yeah, right.
Does anybody know what it is? It's called glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. And interestingly enough, it's not just about getting up in front of an audience, on stage, behind the podium, and seeing the sea of faces, or in your case, perhaps sitting down at a table with people who are in conflict. That's a little uncomfortable too, isn't it? Or it can be. It's not just that, because sometimes, unfortunately, we carry this inner dialogue with an inner critical parent. And that inner critical parent is telling us all the things we did wrong last time, and how we screwed up, and how we're gonna suck, and all of that stuff that makes us fearful. So what is super important is to kick that critical inner parent off the mental committee and bring in the inner nurturing parent. The one who's going to remind us of how great we did last time. Right? Because the more you strengthen that inner dialogue, the more you develop self-confidence. And when you believe in yourself, you're building a platform for effective speaking. As a public speaker, as a mediator, whatever role you're speaking in. Let me say that again. By believing in yourself, you're building a platform for effective speaking. How many of you are familiar with nonviolent communication? Marshall Rosenberg's method? Yeah, most of you. We're going to weave that in as we can today as well, because there's a lot of different elements to speaking. There's the physical act of being on the breath when you speak. There's what's going on between your ears. And then there's how you communicate with others. And relationship building, which is how nonviolent communication methods come into play, right? All right. So speaking about the inner critical parent or the inner nurturing parent and that dialogue, I also would like to remind you of one other thing. And that is that you are not your old messages, your old childhood messages, any old messages. Here's one that I got when I was a kid. It's ironic. Don't talk so much. Kids on the school bus used to call me Motor Mouth. That was my nickname. In fact, I think my Uncle Steve started that one, if I remember correctly. But it was interesting because I also did have a bad habit of interrupting people that I needed to break. But who wants to be brave enough to share an old childhood message of yours? Anybody? Yes.
Too sensitive.
Oh, there's one. Too sensitive. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you. Don't be so sensitive. Guess what that really means? You possess compassion. And compassion is an amazing quality to have in a speaker, to have in a mediator. That is one of your greatest gifts. And me being told not to talk so much, where am I now? I'm a certified transformational voice teacher. I'm up facilitating on stage, sharing my voice, not just this way, but through blogs, books, newsletters. And I teach others how to do the same. Because talking so much is one of my gifts, just like compassion and sensitivity is one of hers. So keep that in mind. And now let's dive right into Hone Your Message. Are you ready?
We're ready.
All right. H is have heartfelt and healthy, effective vocal technique. O, own your delivery. N, notice your impact. And E, energize your audience. Now we do this in 4 simple steps. 1, breathe. 2, resonate. 3, feel. And 4, inspire. So let's start with the H. Have healthy, heartfelt, effective vocal technique. And we do this through the breath. Did you know you can breathe wrong? I see, I hear some yeses. That's fantastic. Yes, you can breathe wrong because there's a lot of people that walk around trying to breathe like you're breathing through your nose, but it's like you're trying to breathe from up here. Your shoulders get all tense and you're getting very limited lung capacity. To breathe effectively as a speaker, as a mediator, you want to do something that might be a little counterintuitive. Let me explain why. A lot of us are used to walking around clenching our bellies. Why? Anybody, why do we clench our bellies?
Tension and we want to look good.
Yes, two very good reasons. You're in a speaking situation, you get a little nervous, there's a little fearfulness, there's tension, your stomach automatically clenches because this is what it does. When in a fearful situation, the abdominis rectus muscle automatically tenses. It's that fight or flight thing, right? And also, we all want to look thin. So we walk around holding our bellies in. Some of us were even told to. Anybody? Nodding heads. People told to suck in your belly when you were younger. And guess what? That's really bad for your speaking and for your breath. So when I get a new voice student, I put them on the floor on a yoga mat, teach them how to keep their ribs out and expanded while their belly is relaxed. So when you're laying down breathing, your stomach, when you inhale, should come up towards the ceiling like this. And then when you exhale, you're speaking on the breath like this. Everybody close your eyes for a minute and take 3 deep breaths with me. Settle down, feet on the floor if you can. How do you feel now? It makes her yawn. How does someone else feel now? Relaxed. How else? Calmer, maybe. See, this is grounded. Yeah. See, there are many, many benefits to proper breathing. And one is that it calms you down. The second is that your audience, your mediation people that you're working with, your audience as speakers, is going to be breathing with you. And they calm down too. So there's all kinds of benefits. But for now, just know that speaking on the breath, proper belly breathing is the H, and have heartfelt, healthy, effective vocal technique. So now let's move on to O, which is resonance. Own your delivery. Anybody not know who James Earl Jones is? Anybody not know? Everybody knows James Earl Jones. Does he have a resonant voice or does he have a resonant voice? And I think he was probably just born that way. I mean, some of us are, some of us aren't. But the great news is that even if you're not born with a naturally resonant voice like James Earl Jones, you can cultivate resonance. And what resonance is it's that quality that allows your voice to carry all the way to the back of the room. You have any problem hearing me back there? Didn't think so. It's because I got resonance, but I had to learn it. I didn't know this stuff when I first started going into the transformational voice training. I didn't know. So let's start learning. Stand up, everybody. This is where I take my shoes off. You don't have to. I like teaching without my shoes whenever possible. All right, so pretend like you're a cow and go like this. One more time. Really give some air to it. What do you feel?
Vibrating.
Vibrating. Yes, that is what you want. And you may sit down now if you wish. There's that vibrating quality. There's all this stuff inside your head. You got your sinus cavities, your vocal, all this stuff. And when you can even exaggerate it and be a little nasal. And you can go, hey, you like that? And it forces your air and your sound right into that, we call it the mask, or the buzzy spot in vocal training. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can warm up using M and N words. I'm going to have you stand up again. Got to keep that blood flowing. All right, so before you're preparing to speak or mediate, you can go somewhere quiet. You can warm up a little using M and N words, and then you come in and your voice will be resonant. So let's use the word money as an example, because that's a good one, right? And I want you to be overly nasal if you have to, and force that sound right here all the way over the ceiling, down the back of this wall, and say, and you can do this if you want to too, and say, money, money, money.
Money, money, money.
How'd that feel? It sounds great. Now, we kind of have lousy acoustics in this room, but do it one more time and just throw that voice out and say, money, money, money. All together.
Money, money, money.
Yes, you may sit again. Fantastically resonant. And it's that simple. And this becomes second nature as you work the program for a while. So you're speaking on the breath, you're resonant, so your voice is carrying all the way to the back of the room, which takes us to the end. Notice your impact. How many other actors are in the room? Okay, got at least one other actor. 2, all right. All right, so what makes the difference between just an okay performance and an inspiring performance?
When you can tell that the actor is playing that part and they feel it so much that it doesn't feel like a part, it feels like it's them.
Yes. And it's the difference between an effective performance and one that deeply touches you. It's the difference as a speaker, as a mediator, between coming from your head and coming from your heart. There's a huge difference. But what does it require to actually feel something in a public situation? Vulnerability. Who is saying this along with me? Yes, it requires vulnerability. You're sharing part of your inner self with your audience. My first real acting teacher, Joe Dodge at the Pinnacle Theater, used to say, because when you're in an acting class, I took like 14, 15, 16, I just kept taking them over and over and over again. You are working with a scene partner in a play scene, and you're also doing improvisations, right? So whether you're doing an improv or you're working on a scene from a play, and you get up here and you get nervous, and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to screw up, I'm going to lose my lines, I'm not going to be able to work with my partner effectively. And me. It's all about me. What is that? That's selfish. That's what my teacher said. You get up here and you're all worried about yourself being selfish. Boy, did that sound harsh. But I got it. You get it? Right. We all know that playing small and pretending that we're not worthy doesn't serve the greater good, does it? But still, this feeling thing, it requires vulnerability. But that is how you notice your impact as you're up here and you're creating an emotional connection with your audience. It's because you're actually feeling something. Wow, what a gift. Because see, there are 2 meanings to the word resonate. We talked about the first one. James Earl Jones has a resonant voice, right? But also, what else does resonate mean?
So like when a message resonates with you, it connects with you and you can feel it.
Bingo. Bingo. So somebody is up there saying something and you're going, oh my God, that hit me right here. That resonates. That rings bells for me. I get it. I get it. So that feeling aspect, creating that emotional connection with your audience, noticing your impact in that way, helps you resonate with your audience. Has anyone in here heard of Nasreen Sheikh? Anyone at all? Okay. I first heard Nasreen speak at Toastmasters for Speaking Professionals. She is a young woman who comes from a village on the border between India and Nepal. No electricity, no paved roads, and no rights for women. Women go from doing what their parents tell them to do to doing what their husband tells them to do. And this husband is selected for them at the age of anywhere from 12 to 17, 18 years old by someone else, often emotionally or physically abusive. Doesn't matter how the woman cares about that husband. And this is the way her village has always been. But Nazreen, who is now maybe 26, they don't keep track of birth and death dates, so she doesn't know her age for sure. But she, at the age of 17, 18, became the first woman in her entire village, the history of her village, to escape a forced arranged marriage. She had a brother or cousin that took care of her, that brought her to Kathmandu, that taught her how to sew and taught her how to make handicrafts. And she learned at the age of again, maybe 12, 13, that she could support herself by working in a sweatshop where she had thousands, maybe 1,000 pieces that she had to make every single week, or she didn't get paid. She would sometimes sleep on the piles of clothes she's been working on because she couldn't go home, and so she was sleeping there working 15 hours a day as a 12 or 13-year-old child. But she escaped that forced marriage through the help of many people who surrounded her, and now she teaches other women, up to 50 women per year, how to sew, how to make handicrafts, how to sell their wares so that they are able to support themselves and their families. My God, I shudder to think what would have happened had she accepted the social norms of her culture. And now, instead, she teaches all of these women through her nonprofit how to take care of themselves, and she travels the world speaking on behalf of women in India who have no voices. Wow, that's a message that resonates in both ways. I heard her speak and I walked up to her afterwards and I said, how can I help you? And I've supported her nonprofit organization ever since. Just the week before last, she's back from Kathmandu, and I interviewed her for a TV program, for TV Toastmasters, to help her get her message out. So this is how you notice your impact, with that resonant message. One example, but you'll have your own, right? Which brings us to the E. Energize your audience. And this is through the quality of inspiration. And got a little secret for you. When you start working with your voice, it's a consciousness raising process. Anybody know that? Yeah. Because there's the inner voice and there's the outer voice. And there's what my voice teacher, Linda Bryce, who founded the Transformational Voice System, she's got a registered trademark for it, she calls the voice a double mirror. What does that mean? It means that what's going on within the person is reflected in the voice, and the voice reflects what's going on within the person. And to illustrate this, I want to use one example of a client that came to me. Her name was Sue. Now, Sue had been in a car accident, and she had physical injuries. I knew about that. She also told me that she had to have a voice lesson because she couldn't cheer for her Ducks anymore. She's a big Ducks fan, and boy, did that just bummed her out. She was just so hoarse. So she came to my home studio, and we had our usual conversation as we start the lesson. And I asked Sue, who was like this. Her head was down, her shoulders were slumped, and her voice was just rasping out like this. That was pretty much her physicality at the time. And I asked her, I said, when did you first start losing your voice? And she said, in my first marriage of 28 years. Yeah, she got what I meant by the double mirror, because there's the inner voice and there's the outer voice, and both affect the other. We worked together for just over an hour, and at the end of that hour, Sue was able to stand up. I mean, she'd come over she was pushed in a wheelchair because she'd gotten back from a physical therapy appointment. She couldn't even drive there on her own volition. But after that hour, she was able to stand up, steady herself, and almost have straight posture. She was still a little, but she was able to say, "Hi, my name is Sue," and have her voice carry to the back of the room with no hoarseness. I mean, that's as far as we got. "Hi, my name is Sue." But guess what? To Sue, that was a really big deal. And she wrote me when she got home and she said, "Thank you. That was so empowering." Now, your message is going to be different than mine. Mine is about the voice. You're about peaceful conflict resolution. And who knows, some of you may find even more things that you want to speak about as you work with your voice after our time together, right? But as you manage and work with this program, have heartfelt, effective vocal technique through the breath. Own your delivery through resonance. Notice your impact as you're feeling something. And energize your audience as you inspire. Your own message will become more crystallized. And your own mediation practice will become more, you'll develop deeper connections with your people as you work this program. They'll be able to understand and hear you better as you're working with your voice. So, but back to Sue and back to this Hone Your Message program. Continue to work this process. The world needs your authentic truth, spoken in your authentic voice. So join me on the journey. And that's the end of part 1. Go ahead and stand up, take a few deep breaths, move around a little bit if you want to.